Hello everyone, happy you could be here. Let's dive in. Sit at My Grave, Season 3, Ego's Death, Chapter 16. Reed barely gave himself time to cough. He quickly got up to get away from Easton. The air had shifted, and warning signs were going off in his brain. I just don't want anything to happen to Arden, and you didn't seem like you were in your right mind, Reed lamely told him. The truth came out automatically. His explanation was more shaky than he meant for it to be. He didn't know why he was freaking out so much. He'd been in fights, and even though this hurt, it was just a shove, and technically, he was getting what he wanted. Arden was safe right now. Easton seemed coherent enough to talk to and reason with, besides his anger. He hoped since he brought Arden's safety into the conversation, he would calm down a bit. Because from what Reed had seen, Easton never wanted to yell at Arden or hurt him physically. Easton could be a bit careless and missing some events and things important to Arden at times, but that was the extent of it, so maybe he'd be glad that Reed had stopped him. Easton's face twisted again, giving a horrible gaze down at his son. "I'm sick of it, Reed! I'm sick!" he screamed. He was through with the discussion. As far as he was concerned, he had the reason his life took a downward spiral right in front of him. He wasn't going to hesitate in giving Reed the same pain he was convinced that he had given him. With a sudden movement, Easton reached out at him, grabbing him by his arm, yanking him forward. Reed didn't wait for the shoves this time, and began struggling trying to get away from him. Easton's grip was tight. He only seemed angrier when Reed tried to get away. Easton tightened his grip, taking his fingers into his flesh so hard he knew he would bruise. Reed started to hit him back now, just enough to struggle loose. He needed to get away. His fight or flight was setting in. With how hard it was just to create distance between them, he knew in the back of his head he wasn't winning this. Reed fought and squirmed enough to get away, trying to run back to his room, but Easton trucked after him. "I've been waiting for this. You want to keep challenging me? Want to keep being a little tough guy, fighting me on everything? Go ahead, fight! Show me how strong you really are!" Easton growled. He caught Reed easily, slamming his body into a wall. Reed grunted at the impact, tensing up. His heart was beating quick. He didn't even register how he got in this situation, just that he was fighting to get out. Easton would hardly let him move. He was all over him, pushing, shoving, overwhelming his body. Reed struggled with his entire self to keep from getting physically engulfed. His instincts told him to go for vitals and fight him off that way, but within himself, he didn't want to hurt his dad, he just wanted this to end. Reed's head was swimming in a thick fog. He was smart enough by now to know Easton wasn't trustworthy, but he was his dad still. And there was a point in his life before where he craved his love and acceptance just like any child would. The fact that he was harming him this way was right in his brain. It was like fighting some stranger off. Just some dude who didn't know him trying to mug him in the street. "Dad, stop! What are you doing?" Reed's voice shouting out held the desperation he was trying to hide. He was shoved to the floor again in response. The movement seemed so fast-paced, it felt like if he ever stopped fighting back, it would only get worse. "I've given so much of myself to this family, and what do I get in return?" Easton's voice bellowed. They wrestled with each other. There was a goal he was trying to reach, but Reed kept disrupting it by fighting him off. "I've helped too. You're acting like you've been alone in this. I've been working since I was..." Reed struggled to speak. It was difficult. He was getting fatigued in every way, but he still held out hope that a conversation could stop that aggression. Shut up! You have no idea what I've gone through!" Easton screamed at him, appalled at him for still talking back. His movements only got sharper as he shoved Reed around. His gripping and pushing was so frantic, his short nails were starting to leave quick, painful scratches as he tried to grab Reed. "Yes, I do! I've been here! I've picked up the slack! Me! When you didn't want..." Reed was cut off again. "Don't try to tell me what I should have or could have been doing. I've done enough! If it wasn't for you being here, none of this would have happened in the first place. We've let you live, and you should be grateful for that," Easton shouted. Reed tried to create distance between them, only to be yanked by his arm, his bruise getting dug into again. His body was forced to face Easton's. He barely got a chance to figure out what had happened when Easton slapped him flush in the face. Easton let go of his arm with a push. He sent him to the floor after his palm made contact with the son's face. The impact immediately sent heat coursing through Reed's whole head, his ears ringing. It happened so quickly, it caused him to bite his tongue in the process. This shot he attempted bracing. The pain jolted straight through him like an electric shock. He let out a pathetic, muffled groan as he collapsed. He was tough. He could get through this. The adrenaline was working overtime. The pounding in his head was overshadowed by it for that moment. He could still feel the dull thud of pain. It was subconscious. But before he tried to run again, Reed did look up at Easton. He didn't even know what his own expression could be, as he looked up into his father's eyes. He couldn't even muster the courage or catch his breath to ask him, why? Why was he breaking him like this? To plead with him to stop, to question what he'd done since birth that caused him to hate him so deeply. He understood he wasn't supposed to be here, but he'd done what he could to prove, even though he was a mistake, he could be a good one. He wasn't the type to feel sorry for himself, but looking at Easton, the one who was supposed to protect the family, raise him into a man, Easton didn't even respect him as a person, or love him as a son. The moment didn't last as long as it felt. Reed struggled up again, battling with Easton. It was clear his hits hurt him, but just barely. It was never enough to make him stop. Reed struggled to move away from him yet again, swallowing down the rusty taste of blood, but a sudden searing pain forced him to face Easton. He squinted his eyes in ache, trying not to lock his gaze with Easton's. The pain shot from his scalp to his neck with how sharp and how tight the movement was, forcing his body to move along with it, just to relieve the pain a bit. If you're gonna run like a little sissy, I'm gonna treat you like one, Easton growled. He wrapped one of his hands in Reed's long hair, gripping it tightly, keeping him in place. Before Reed could respond, he was yanked closer. In a blur, Easton punched him in the face. The impact of Easton's fist collided into the flesh of Reed's face. A white-hot fire of pain spread across it, engulfing his entire body in it. For a moment, he couldn't hear. He couldn't tell if he closed his eyes or had temporarily gone blind. His crash into the floor went hardly noticed, as the pain in his head was too great. Easton said something over him. He could hear him mention Arden. He sounded offended, angry that he'd even suggested he'd hurt his son like this. But he couldn't make out the exact wording. The thoughts in Reed's head were jumbled. He couldn't focus on one thing. The only fact that he knew was what he could feel. Even with the fights he got into at school, this hurt worse in every way. He prayed for a moment that Arden wouldn't come in, and that the scuffling inside wasn't that noticeable outside these walls. He even hoped that maybe he just went to the McKinneys where he was safe. He didn't know how he looked laying on the floor like that. However, he felt pathetic. He could feel the warm trickles of blood on his face, and knew that Arden would be terribly frightened, seeing or knowing any part of what happened.
I'm sorry.